They didn't, I never got through. Then finally I got through at 4 and they wouldn't pick it up. Today is the fourth Saturday, so the bank is shut. So you need to once, you and I, both of us, we will pursue it on Monday. Now, two, I wanted to check with you, this is
A very good morning, all of you. I am Rajvi Shah from Zeba School for Children. I've always been into fiction because it takes me to an alternate universe where nothing exists the way I know it does around me. Knowing and relating to the characters on a spiritual level, I've always found comfort and peace among books. They're my escape from reality, a safe haven, and I hope they become yours too. A very warm welcome to the renowned authors who are joining us from different parts of the country for Read Runners too. I would also like to welcome Kia Ma'am from Udgam School for Children. Before we begin our interaction, I would like to take this opportunity to share a few details about our leading ladies. Miss Samina Mishra is a documentary filmmaker, author, and a teacher based in New Delhi. She runs the Magic Key Center for the Arts in Childhood. Her latest book, Chamlo Walks Life During Lockdown, is a hard hitting book on what the lockdown did to the people of India, particularly its young citizens. It discusses the importance of recognizing injustice and inequality in our day to day interactions. Thank you so much, Samina ma'am, for joining us from Delhi today. Secondly, we
Thank
have
you
with
for
us
having me.
Benita Cole. Thank you so much, ma'am. Secondly, we have with us Benita Coelho from the land of sun, sea, and surf, Goa. She's a screenwriter, novelist, and artist and has been awarded the Sahitya Academy Bal Puraskar. Her recent book, Dark Tales, is a collection of thrilling horror short stories, perfect for teen and crossover audiences who are interested in the supernatural, for horror fiction fans and short story readers. Thank you so much, Vanita ma'am, for accepting our invitation.
My pleasure, totally.
Thank you, ma'am. Our third guest for the day is Miss Lavanya Karthik. As a child, she spent all her time writing stories in her school notebooks and drawing pictures to go with them. She's now a slightly older child, still making up stories and drawing pictures. You can find her wandering about by the by lanes of Mumbai, nibbling on chocolate, chatting with street dogs, and looking for her next book idea. She's the author of several books, including Neil on Wheels, A Walk with Thambi, and The Lion's Feast, and is the creator of the fabulous Ninja Nani series. Thank you so much, Lavanya ma'am, for joining us from Mumbai. And now we have with us Miss Kia Daftari as the supervisor at Udgam School for Children, Noon Shift. An avid reader of books, she is always keen to promote reading among the school children. Her efforts have resulted in 3 successful reading campaigns in the past and have received tons of appreciation from the parent community. Kia ma'am, thank you so much for inspiring us. I would now request Kia ma'am to carry the session forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rajvi. It is indeed a great pleasure to be a part of Mega Webinar Read Runner Series 2 with extremely proficient and expert guest speakers today. Good afternoon to one and all. We are trying hard to build a reading culture by motivating, supporting, and encouraging students to read. We are trying to focus on two important aspects, reading for pleasure and independent reading. We believe reading as a passion needs to be ingrained as a drill from childhood. Sole motto of today's webinar is as parents, educators, and mentors, let's join hands together to build a reading culture and nurture our kids' passion for reading. by making reading fun again. Welcome you all once again. So to start with, literary pilgrimages are a way one can connect with a favorite writer or book, and they make for great concepts around which to base your travel. So Samina, what literary pilgrimages have you gone on?
So I guess you're asking me if I've visited actual physical pilgrimage. I'm not sure that I've had the opportunity to do that for a favorite writer, but I would like to share my visit to. There's a wonderful, wonderful place called Seven Stories in England, and it houses many favorite writers. It's a center. In fact, I think now it is called National Center for Children's Literature, and it houses. It's an old warehouse which has been converted into a kind of museum space, and it has 7 stories starting from like the basement, and every story has a different aspect of engaging with books. So, there will be like an exhibition space on one floor. There is a library on one floor. There is right on top where there's a kind of attic. They've got for very young children performance space with lots of, costumes and toys. So when storytelling sessions are held, writers or the educators there can pull those out. Kids can pull those out and play with it and create their own stories. It's absolutely a magical place. And it has an archive, which is housed in another building, but they can draw upon that archive. So I have actually seen Philip Pullman's like handwritten coffee spilled pages in that archive.
Wow.
So in some ways, yes, I think that's a kind of pilgrimage that I made. They put up exhibitions, using the resources from that archive. So yeah, it's an absolutely magical place.
And it's quite interesting. What do you think, Lavanya? Like, what is your take on, like, have you been to any literary pilgrimages?
I have to say no, none at all. But I do pilgrimages of a different kind. What I do is when I find an author I really, really like, I just dive deep into their work and try to read every book that they've ever written. So my literary pilgrimages have always been from my armchair. I'm an armchair traveler. And I have explored the work starting from the first all the way to the last of, all the authors that I've loved. It started with Enid Blyton, then it moved on to Douglas Adams, Neil Gaiman, Philip Pullman, of course, Terry Pratchett. So I have all these authors that I love, and I just try to read everything that they've written.
Yeah, and that's why it said, that reading takes you to places. So even sitting at one place, you could. Thank you so much. Venita.
As a writer, your whole life is a literary pilgrimage, really, because you start off loving books, and every author that you write, you really like, you follow. And as a writer, you have a huge journey because you grow through every book that you write. You're exploring a different idea. You're growing a little bit more. So each writer has their very own pilgrimage. That the landmarks of that pilgrimage are every single book that they write. So I'm still on my pilgrimage, and I've got lots more to go. I can see like many, many landmarks ahead of me, many, many more books still to write.
Oh, thank you. That was wonderful. Okay, it is quite difficult to pinpoint when, why, and where the reading bug bites. So Venita, as a kid, what were your reading habits? If you can share, all of us.
Can you see how thick my spectacles are? I discovered reading and I didn't stop. I read and I read and I read, and I got big fat spectacles when I was in class 3. And I was told no more reading.
Oh my God.
At chance. Read under covers with a torch. I would go to the toilet. I'd be like 3 hours in the toilet. My father was fed up of me. I just didn't stop. So I still have thick spectacles, and I think they were completely worth it. I'm still reading madly. I mean, reading was the habit that has sustained my life. So as a young kid, I never stopped. I plan to.
That's interesting. Lavanya, tell us about your reading habits as a kid, like when you were a kid.
It's pretty much the same story without the spectacles, because I've been reading, for as long as I can remember. And well, I guess I inherited my dad's eyes. He has really good eyesight. So I've been reading, and much the same, reading instead of doing pretty much anything else. I wasn't much of a sports person. I didn't really like movies. I didn't really hang out much. I was a kid who just stayed home and read. And I am still pretty much still a larger kid who still stays home and reads. Nothing's changed.
Okay. Samina, tell
Well,
us like your reading habits.
I mean, I think you'll find most writers will have the same story. We all have been reading. I don't
And the
know
same
when
thing.
I started, it was very early, I think. And yeah, like Vinita and Lavanya, I also read it. I mean, I was always with a book, you know, like even if we had to go somewhere in the car, I had a book. And always I would hear this thing that don't read in the moving car, your eyes will get spoiled and that sort of thing. I did also, I will say that some things which perhaps the teachers may not like here, but I did sit in the back in the classroom and read, read while something else was going on. I've done that.
That's great. So I mean, I guess you all started reading as pleasure, right? And then that's how it turned into a habit. So
Yeah.
yes, the viewers, the listeners, so go ahead, right? It's absolutely engaging. Okay, the picture book is my favorite genre. In fact, picture books can make everyone's world a better place. Lavanya, kids are always attracted to visuals. So can we say that the little readers today judge a book by its own cover?
I guess, yes, when you put it that way, definitely. The visuals are a very, very important part of a picture book. In fact, they are center stage. You know, the words tend to take a back seat, especially with picture books. And yes, pretty much, I think you are absorbing so much information just from pictures.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not as if they are, you know, separate from the text. There is as much or even more story going on in the pictures as well. And a well put together picture book is telling you all kinds of stories. There are all kinds of themes going on, which is the barest minimum of words. So absolutely, I think judge a book by its cover when it comes to pictures. Yeah.
Okay. Samina, what do you say?
I think that particularly now, I think this generation of children growing up, it's a very visually literate generation. They understand the language of visuals in an instinctive way, in ways that, you know, like my generation perhaps didn't. And, you know, I make films, so I know that I had to learn the language of visuals. It didn't come to me as naturally as I think it does for kids now. They understand very quickly, you know, if they see something which is like an illustration that has a close-up, they understand it is not that this has been beheaded, you know, this person has been beheaded. They know what it means, that it is drawing attention to that particular character. So I think absolutely visuals are very important, and there is an element of reading that is happening which is with visuals. So also I feel that we have to be a bit sort of flexible in when we talk about reading, and, you know, the lament that children are not reading enough books. I think we need to think about this in a kind of wider way, because they are actually reading images all the time. So I do think that visuals are important.
Thank you. Vinita, what do you say?
Well, I write for older kids. I've not done a picture book yet, but a cover is really important, because a cover is what sells you on a book. If you like the cover, you're going to pick it up. And there's this whole science of designing covers. In fact, the most important of cover science design now is this. A lot of effort is put into the spine, because that's all you see when a book is on a shelf.
Yes.
So, you know, tempting you to pick up a book starts with the covers. So covers are really important. And I so agree with Samina. No, it's not that our kids aren't reading. They're consuming stories in different ways. They're consuming them off phones. They're consuming them in halls. They're consuming them on screens. So let's say that the story habit has not gone away. It's just shifted from one medium to another. You know, but I still think that reading is the medium, because, you know, when you see something on a screen, it's all pre-digested. If there's a dragon, it's red, it's got scales, it's got fire. But when you read about a dragon, you have to bring to that reading your imagination of what a dragon is. You know, so you have to meet the book halfway. And therefore, a book reading is a completely different kind of engaging experience. And I think books will never die. They will always be there.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, you know, I think it is the hardest to write, that it requires great talent to illustrate one. And then it is one of the most beautiful ways in which the art and literature comes together when we talk about the picture books, right? Okay, before we proceed, Rajvi, shall we have poll questions for our viewers? The poll questions will appear on the screen. We would request all the participants to take up the poll that is on the screen and answer them one by one. Here, I would also like to say, viewers, you'll be really very glad to know that Rajvi from Zebar School is not only a brilliant, disciplined, and humble child, but she is also a voracious reader. And Harry Potter is one of her favorite books, and that's how she has developed love for reading, isn't it, Rajvi?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so okay, we have our first poll question, and that's how many books do you read in a month? Is it 3, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 9, or no, you don't read a book? Okay. So that's the first. Do we have the results? Or else we can go with the next question till we get the results. Okay, so I guess what do you have to say, Samina ma'am? Just look at the results. Like we have kids or the participants who go with 1 to 3 books in a month. Oh, and we also have like 11 out of 140 who says they don't read books. Like, come on now.
Well,
You have to say something.
well, yeah. I mean, I would say that I'm trying to think for myself that how many. I don't know how would I have answered this question. It's a hard one to answer because sometimes I have multiple books that I'm reading at the same time. Like on my bedside table, there are a few, and I'm reading them simultaneously. So numbers are not something that I'm really like big on. And I feel that it's okay whether you're reading 1 or 3 or 7 or 9. The point is, are you having fun reading them? What are you like, what is the pleasure that you're getting out of it? I feel you have to find what Vinita said about reading, that it will never go away. I also believe that because I think that that escape that one manages to find, like particularly now, look at our lives, we've been locked away, but the book allows us actually to travel, to just go into some other space, to imagine, and it asks of you, like it's up to you how active or passive you want to be in the way that you engage with that book. So I'm not really big on the numbers thing. I think for me it's more important that you find the book and the kind of stories that you want, because they're out there. So,
Exactly.
if you are in that, no, I don't read books, it's probably because you haven't found the kind of stories that you will respond to. So I would encourage you to go looking for that.
Yes. Can we have the other question, please? But then again, for those who have not yet started reading, they should now pick one. I mean, there is no perfect time, so they can start reading.
And of course, the best way I think to discover it is if you have access to a library, that you can try different things. But of course, I know these circumstances are challenging for things like that. But the internet is there, which allows you to explore and find different kinds of writers that you may, if you're still in that bottom category, you may discover.
Yeah, very true. Like, okay, we have the next question. What kind of books do you like to read? So Rajvi, do you have to say something on this, beta?
Yeah,
Like-
I usually prefer fantasy because it's basically a completely alternate universe where everything is just not ordinary, and it depends on your imagination, where, as ma'am said, you have to meet the book halfway. So yeah, it's just I prefer fantasy, and then I go for thriller books too. Yeah, and science fiction to dystopian novels. Yeah, that's about it.
We had wide variety, here. So like we have action, we have comic to start with, detective series, a science, fantasy, magazines. So let's see what's the result. Let's see what's the result. Like the kids. Okay, here we have the result, and yes, as uh, thought of, it was like 51% is fantasy, 32% is action, comic is again 33%, detective series 29, 27% is science, and 11% is magazine. Okay, Lavanya, do you think, like, seeing the results, I guess fantasy is much more in demand, isn't it?
Um, I, I guess yes, it is quite popular now, but I must say that tastes will keep changing. Your poll might be completely different 2 months from now. You read what your friends are reading. You see something on television that strikes you as interesting. That might get you reading a very different genre. So again, I think the numbers are just giving us a, this place, this time kind of
And yes,
picture.
absolutely,
But,
we cannot conclude on one decision here. It depends
absolutely.
on.
It's just nice to
Yes.
see so many different kinds of reading going on. I think that's my takeaway here.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, we have the third question. Rajvi, can you read out? What is it?
Yes, ma'am. Do you like reading? And the options are reading, or do you like reading and writing both?
Okay, so is it that only reading you prefer, or you also would love to write? So let's see. When it comes to writing, it's quite challenging as well.
Yeah,
So Vanita, we will just take your opinion here. Like, let's see what's the results. And oh, reading and writing
Okay.
both is 56%, and reading it's 44%. That's surprising.
So I'm in big trouble because reading and writing is all my competition. All these guys write books and I'm in big trouble. Wow. I'm so glad to see those numbers actually. Fabulous. I'm so glad so many of you are writing. And I hope that across the session we can give you some tips as well on writing.
You need to share those tips, right?
We will.
So that we just get better into writing as well. Okay, thank you so much, all the participants. Rajvi, thank you so much. Stay connected. And shall we proceed? Shall we proceed? We can just stop sharing the screen right now. Okay, so we'll continue with the next, which I guess all of us can talk about. That's, what inspiration do you look while writing? So this is because reading and writing goes hand in hand. Just briefly explain the process of, converting idea into a full-fledged story. Vanita.
I have to tell you, I always get asked about inspiration and I always sneer a bit and say, inspiration never lasts. Because, if you waited for inspiration to write, you'd write for 4 days in the year. So it's not inspiration that lasts. In my case, when I write, it's normally anger that lasts. Before I start a book, I have to be very, very angry about some issue or the other. And if I'm really mad, then an entire book pops out of me. So, also as a professional writer, you can't wait for inspiration. You have to write every single day. And I think that's what marks out the published and professional writers from the amateurs. Published and professional writers write every day, whether they're in the mood, whether they're not in the mood, whether life is going fine, whether life is falling apart. And that writing every day keeps us sane and keeps us stable. And that means that we end up seeing finished books. So here's my first tip for all of you out there as starting out writers: don't wait for the inspiration. Inspiration has its place, but what really is more important is doing this regularly. If you were going to learn the piano, then, well, you'd sit down and you'd practice every single day, wouldn't you? So writing is the same. I don't understand why you put writing on a pedestal and say inspiration is required. No, lots of blood, sweat, and tears are also required. So write every single day. Make sure you finish what you've started. Because until you have something finished, you can't really see it. You don't understand whether it's good or it's bad or how to fix it. So writing and finishing what you've set out to write is really, really important. Today, Lavanya and Samina and I are published writers because we finished what we started out to do. So finish what you've written. then of course you can improve it, you can rewrite it, etc. And inspiration is great, but if you're really going to be a writer, you don't need it all that much.
So yes, listeners, I hope you all are listening. Lavanya, what do you think? Like,
I think sometimes, since Vanita's given us these tips, I'll go slightly sideways and say sometimes an image is all it takes you. And if words are a problem, think of a picture. Is there a visual in your head? Is there a visual that you've seen outside, something that gets you thinking? That could be your inspiration. That could be your, step one to writing or thinking up a story. Most of all, are you having fun? I think. Again, as with reading, writing, are you having fun? Is there something, if there's anything else you'd rather be doing, perhaps go do that. But I think the joy of, building up this plot, figuring out what characters are doing, what's going to happen, I think you really have to be invested in that as well. So the fun element of writing. And again, write for yourself. I always say this whenever I'm asked, write the book you want to read, write the story you would enjoy. Don't really think about how people are going to respond or, are they going to criticize it in any way? It doesn't matter. Is this a book that you're enjoying? Is this the book that you wanted to read with these characters? Then that's it. That's all it is then.
simply pick a pen, a paper, and just pen down whatever you would love to, right? Samina.
Well, I agree with what both Vinita and Lavanya have said. I'm not sure this image of, the writer locked away in a garret, cut off from the world and all. I'm not sure how that really came about, because I don't think that works for me. I think that what is most important to be able to write is to be, first of all, living in the world and engaging with the world. You have to, I don't know, like this, where ideas come from. There's a mystery about it. In fact, Neil Gaiman has a lovely answer somewhere in one of his talks on the internet that, it isn't something that you buy in a shop. And I feel that this mystery of where ideas come from, it's nice for it to remain a mystery, and that it doesn't become a formulaic thing that we figure out and then we are able to just generate it like that, So I think practice is, as Vinita said, practice for any kind of creative art is necessary. I don't do what she says that we should be doing, but that's probably because I am not as prolific a writer as she is. I do other things and all that, so I'm a little more scattered. But I think that's really, really important. I think what is really important for any kind of creative practice is you have to observe, you have to talk, you have to look around yourself, and you have to really live. What are you going to write about if you don't have something to say? And you only have something to say when you engage with the world. Like Vinita said, she has to get fired about something and feel angry, and that works. But it can be something else for you. But you have to live. And you're not going to sit somewhere and wait for some inspiration to just, fall on your head.
Yeah, it can anytime. Yes. Thank you so much. So
a lot with this.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I agree a lot
please.
with Samina. Living is really important, because what you put into your stories is the essence of what you experience. So, this huge indiscriminate curiosity, reading weird things, doing fun stuff, taking, weird courses on the net, whatever it is, you must live. If you ain't living, you ain't got no stories to tell.
Yes, absolutely. Well said, ma'am. So here we can just, conclude, like, for readers, like, books are not written in a day. Like, for an author, it takes a lot of hard work, understanding, experiences, knowledge, and in many cases, a lot of pain to come up with a single book. But as a reader, we we get to read them in just few weeks or days, thereby living years of experiences in this considerable less time. So whether you start writing, reading, but at least we are blessed to have authors like you sharing, such wonderful ideas on this platform. Thank you so much. Let's move on to the next. Samina, as a teacher, what would you do to encourage kids to read? And again, your advice to the, to this generation, like young parents, on helping the kids to read.
So I think, like what we started with, this idea of reading for pleasure. So if we have to first of all allow the child to choose that pleasure, we cannot enforce it. We cannot say, oh, you've got to read, because I think the moment you fetishize it, it's going to be something that the child will resist. So you have to allow the child to come to the book. So that means you have to make the books and the act of reading like something attractive, right? So I think one, like for the adults sort of around children, one way of doing that is, of course, what are the books that you bring in, you know, that selection, to be able to bring like different kinds of books and allow the child to explore them on their own. And I think the other is to just somehow be able to communicate that you are reading for pleasure. I mean, that it's something that you want, you know, like when you eat something, you want to share that with somebody because, oh, it's really something nice and you've got to taste it. It has to be in the same way that you want to share that experience, that pleasure that you derive out of it with the child in your life. So I think you have to be able to somehow like show the child that you love that reading. And secondly, you have to have enough things that and allow the child the space to be able to explore and pick and choose, you know. So you have to also let go that I like this, therefore the child should like it, or the child should read this because it is good for the child. You know, you have to let go of that because that's not pleasure. That's being instrumental about it.
Yes, absolutely, ma'am. So here, like, you know, it's we need to create a reader-friendly environment, you know, where both the child and the parent can work together for the same, right? Thank you. Okay, reading can be surprisingly social too. So Lavanya, what is your idea about a book club? Like, do you suggest our students should be a part of any book club?
Well, a book club is a great idea if you know, the kids are comfortable. And I always say that the secret to a book club is not making the book central to it. It's about how the children are engaging with books, how they feel about themselves and each other, the kind of the ease they have with expressing themselves in ways other than, you know, just book reviews or book reports. This has to be about them being able to, you know, draw comics or draw pictures, or talk about what they hated in a book, talk about what they would have written differently, written fan fiction. I think a book club is a great way if without judgment, you can allow kids to express their feelings about the book and therefore, you know, in a way themselves. It's essentially each book is a way that you are engaging with the world. You know, it's a tiny thing. It could be whatever your reactions to the characters or the story or the themes. But finally, each book is about how you feel about something in the world out there. And I think when you have a book club and you have a ring of kids sitting there, I think you need to have the agency to be able to voice your opinions. So I think a book club is a great idea, as long as we don't enforce things like, you know, a curriculum of reading or writing reports, book reviews. I think that should really not be central to the idea of a book club.
Actually, I know quite a few kids from my school. I guess 6A right now is the class. Like they have their own book club. Like they have formed book club wherein they just put up the names of the books they complete, and it's wonderful. I also am you know, a part of their group, and then I really enjoy reading what they, you know, come after reading the book, and that's how they also promote, like not promote, but they also see that other kids are also equally interested in you know, picking those books. So absolutely, the kids choose to read, and same books for the discussion opportunities here, right? So book clubs take the idea to another level, turning books into a true social event. So this is what we are looking, this is what we are looking forward for. Thank you.
Absolutely. In fact, you know, your peer group is really your biggest influence. And when you see your friends excited about a book, that's when you're most likely to want to read it yourself, even if you really are not much of a reader. But a lot of readers are created by their friends and their friends' interest in reading. So I think you just give kids the space to be able to, you know, find the book and have their own reasons for reading it.
Exactly. And being into the stream for all these years, we have truly seen, I mean, we have seen many groups who are inspiring, and then they, you know, they see that the circle is broadened. So even the kids who are not into reading, just because they talk to each other and that's how they pick up reading. And then now they are also into the league, of readers. Thank you. Vanita, has a book ever scared you or given you a nightmare?
Okay, before I answer that, I'm actually going back to the question you asked Lavinia, where you said, how do you get, you asked Samina, how do you get kids to read? In this wonderful, glorious days before COVID and before the lockdown, I went to a lot of schools to do readings, and I went to over 80 schools across India. And I'd get asked this all the time, how do we get kids to read? And I'd ask the teachers, so what are you reading right now? And out of 80 schools, only 2 teachers told me the books they were reading. You cannot expect kids to value things that you yourself don't value.
Absolutely.
A child values what it sees valued. If you are reading, a child will think that that has some value to it. I visited a school where the principal had grown an entire reading habit by the simple thing of carrying a book with her whenever she walked around on her rounds. And kids would ask her what you're reading, and she'd tell them, and then they'd want to read that book. So, let's not put this onus repeatedly on our children. If you wish to grow readers, you need to be a reader too. There's a scholastic reading report that they do every year on how and why children read. And every year, the number one thing that comes up is parents who read have children who read. You want your kid to read, you have to get off your phone. You have to switch off that TV. A child will always value what it sees valued. So, really, you want kids to read? Why don't you go out there and find a really good book for yourself that you can read and get excited about? Because that's what communicates itself.
It has to be in inverted commas. No, that's absolutely a true thing. Like what we did in our school was, among our teachers, we started a reading club, and we instead of giving parties on birthdays or some occasions, we started buying books for our own library, just to bring that message that if we are the one who would be, then maybe the children would look at us and they would also try the same. So well said, ma'am, well said. Coming back to the question, like, has book ever scared you or given you a nightmare?
Many books scared me. I think half the thrill of reading a scary book is waiting to be scared. If you're not scared, what's the point? And many books have scared me. Last week, I was reading a book by a writer called China Miéville. And midway through, I kind of just closed the book and looked at my daughter and said, okay, I'm going to stop. This is really scary. So I guess also as writers, we all have these highly active imaginations. So when we read a book and it really reaches out to us, we get frightened. I get scared a lot.
Yeah, the books are magic, actually. They charm you, they make you smile, they make you weep, move you, and make your heart race. So yes, absolutely. If a book is made to scare, it should. Absolutely. I agree with that. We all agree to that. Okay, Samina, what is the first book you ever remember reading? And please tell us more about your book, Nida Finds a Way. It's a beautiful bond between father and daughter, and very much we can connect it to fathers these days, and this typical line, no, every time the father wants Nida when she wants to do something. So can you simply, in brief, can you share it with us?
So the first, I don't know, I think probably the first book that I must have read, my parents had bought my sister and I a collection of Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales, which is this really beautifully bound book, which I still probably have in my bookshelf, old and probably a bit tattered now. But I suspect that stories from that must have been the first that I read, because that book they had probably bought before I was even born. My sister is older than me, so they must have bought it before I was born. So it was always around. I was, like many kids of my generation in India, I grew up reading a lot of Enid Blyton. And I do remember the very first Enid Blyton that I read was a book. And I remember my mother and I going to a bookshop in Khan Market and she buying it for me. It was a book called Bimbo and Topsy, about a dog and a cat and the friendship between that dog and a cat. So I do remember that. To come back to your question about Nida. So yeah, the idea for the book it came from sort of many different things, but one of the things that I wanted the book to be about was about this sort of parent-child relationship in which the parent actually learns and draws from the child's courage and sense of adventure. And because I feel that we don't listen enough to children, to our children, and that there is much that we could learn if we just listened a little bit more to them. So I wanted it to be about that, that the relationship is, unequal, not in the way in the real world it is always weighted in favor of the adult, but it's in the other way around, and that the child actually teaches the father something and helps him to grow courage. So yeah, that's what the book, that's one of the things that the book is about. I hope the book is about many things, but that's one of them. And so this idea
Yes,
of
it is about actually.
sorry, so this idea of no, no, no is because, the children are always stopped from sort of being exploratory quite often, not everyone, but this is something, either it comes out of sort of fear and wanting to protect the child. So it comes from that. And of course, it's an exaggerated kind of version.
Yes, but yes, I guess one should pick up the book and just get indulged, and you'll find that you can relate it very well with the practical experiences which we do face in our families or which we see in our families. I'm sorry to interrupt right now. We have few questions from the participants, so if we can take up a few questions, is that okay? Okay, there is this one question. A child is asking, what's your opinion on comics? So Lavanya, just tell us what's your opinion on comics?
Oh, I have the highest regard for comics since I draw and write them myself. So absolutely, I think comics are as much reading as books with plain text. And yes, everyone should read more comics.
Yes, so just pick it up and go ahead. Vanita, here there's this one question, maybe you will love to answer. How much time we should dedicate to reading?
Reading is not homework. It's not like you have to sit down every day and do half an hour reading or else. It's not like that. Reading is about loving what you do. So dedicate as much time as you like. If you love a book, sit down and read for hours and hours. You don't like a book, put it aside and find another book that you like. But the only thing I'd say is keep reading. Don't quit. That's all. But give it as much time as you feel that you want to. It's really not homework. It's about loving what you do.
Absolutely. But generally what as teachers, and if we want to see that our kids start reading, we just ask them to like at least 10 minutes in a day you can start with. So that's what we keep on harping upon, that okay, come on, 10 minutes is fine. Before you go to sleep, at least read for 10 minutes. Thank you. And
I think instead of that, you should say, at least you can find one book that you will like. Let the child go and find that book, because then it will not be 10 minutes. It will likely be much more.
Much more, yes. So now we're gonna change it, and we're gonna frame it this way for sure. Now this is I guess for each one of you. Like, what age did you publish your first book, Samina? What age did you? Yes.
So my first book for children was Hina in the Old City. It was published in 2000. I'm born in 1969. So do the math. How old was I?
Great. Lavanya.
Definitely after I turned 40. I didn't have any books out before that. So I was old. Definitely in my 40s, not before that.
Okay. And Vanita.
Okay, so I got published when I was pretty old, but I'll tell you when I wrote my first book. My very first book I wrote when I was 11 years old. It was not a very good book. It was the kind of book that an 11-year-old could write, right? But the thing is, I never stopped after that. I just kept going at it until I got better and better, and eventually I got published. I must have got published, again, in my 40s, I imagine. Yep.
Okay, so last time when we had a session with other authors like Varsha's session, she said that she started at the age of when she was in grade 6, I guess, and it was published in one of the news articles. So yes, um, okay, we'll just move back to the questions that we have. Anything else? Okay, please share the name of the book of father and daughter that you discussed. Okay, that's Nida Finds a Way by Samina ma'am, right? Okay. This is for Lavanya ma'am. Quickly, ma'am, like we don't want to waste much time. How did you come up with the idea of writing the book Ninja Nani? Oh my God, that's
Nani
such a
was this
wonderful-
spark at the back of my head for a very long time. But essentially, I wanted to write a superhero book. I wanted to, like I said, write the book that you want to read, but you really couldn't find anywhere. So I wanted a book that was very much rooted in the India I know. It's a very Indian book. I wanted characters I could relate to from my day-to-day neighborhood, people that I meet. I wanted these ridiculous situations. I wanted kids with agency, because there was a time, if you read your average Enid Blyton, there are kids out having fun doing stuff that I know adults really interfering in their lives or telling them don't do this, don't do that. So it's a very freewheeling adventure. I wanted to have fun because I draw and I write. I wanted to have fun. The story carries from the words into the comics, back out. There are visual jokes. It's this great big heap of confusion, each book. And that's pretty much the kind of book I like. So as an inspiration, I think the great big muddle of ideas and, my silly sense of humor, I think that's where everything began.
And I also heard in one of your interviews, there is this dog, the character, and which you love the most. Of course, Ninja Nani is there, but then this dog, that's a wonderful character in your book, right?
Yes.
So can you tell us more about the dog?
Yes, in fact, I don't know how big. Oh, I don't think you can see him there. That's Pongo.
Yes.
That's Pongo. And yes, he is my favorite character in the book, because he's a little dog, and he's a sort of dog you would not expect to have any kind of aggression in him, but he just turns around and surprises you each time. And in fact, with each book, his role in the story has steadily increased. He gets his own pages of comics. He might have his own thread, his own backstory, his own subplot. So it's a series where even I don't know what's going to happen next, because certain characters who are just supposed to appear once have now gone on to have their own lives and adventures. And Pongo is definitely top of that list.
He is going to be popular very soon now. Just wait for that. There's one question. Is Ninja Nani in Hindi or in English, or it is available in both the versions?
It's in English. It's only printed in English. I mean, there's a lot of, there are a few words of Hindi used here and there, but it's really only in English. It's not printed in any other language yet.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, Renita, this is like one of the videos I saw and I picked it up. The man looked at him with steady gaze. My name is Death. From the book Dark Tales, Ghost Stories. So being a writer, director, and an artist, we would love to hear you reading few dialogues, or maybe just even, Samina ma'am just introduced you saying that you do a lot of videos. So can we just have one glimpse? And then we can talk about the book as well.
You want me to perform? Oh my God. Okay. Oh,
That's you.
okay. That's a tough one. Do an instant performance. Okay, so let me just try and get all the kids scared. Okay.
And one minute. Let me tell all the viewers, come on, do not get up from your seats and let's just experience this. Come on.
So what scares you? What is it that you're scared of in the dark? When the lights go off and you're alone at home and it's raining outside and the door slowly opens, what is it that comes through that door? You'll meet that in the book that I've written. Come and read the book and meet your deepest fears.
We cannot, like right now, we cannot say once more, but definitely we would, love to go for it. Can you just tell us something more about the book? In fact, this small performance itself has, ignited that immediately we're going to get up and get the book now.
Okay. So this is the book, it's Dark Tales. And if you're under 14, I would suggest you don't read it. And if you're over 14, then I dare you to read it. So when I was writing it, I got really ambitious. I wanted to scare the whole of India. I said, what scares India? So I looked at all the cases in the papers that had really shaken us as a nation. So the Nirbhaya case, the Uppkar cinema case where people went to see a movie and they were just burned to death, the Nithari case where so many little children were killed. And I based all these stories that I've written have the backdrop of these cases, because these were cases that scared us completely as an entire country. So hopefully this book will get a lot of people scared. Read it and find out whether it scares you as well.
But let me tell you, right now, like this generation, when I talk to them, when I talk about books and all, they are quite daring. They choose books wherein they feel that, okay, it's challenging, and then they give challenges to each other. So yes, definitely they're gonna pick one and we will go for the book. We have one question here, like, where can we buy all the books of the authors, like Samina, Lavanya, and Vinita? Like, is there anything?
You can buy them wherever you can buy books, and we would all three, I'm sure, urge you to buy them from the independent bookstores. So look for one in your city. Now, in fact, there are people from other cities also sending across. So yeah.
Okay, and there's this one interesting question, Lavanya. Has it happened any time that you're writing a book, but after writing half of it, you don't want to write anymore, and then you just leave it? Actually, Vinita said that you don't do that. When you once write, just finish it. But yes, what if this happens, Lavanya?
Okay, no, it hasn't happened yet, because by the time if I've reached halfway, you really want to finish the story, because by then you are so invested in characters, you are practically living their lives for them. Because I just to take a short digression, I run a lot, and typically when I run is when I sort out plots and dialogues in my head. So if you live in my neighborhood, you'll know who I am, because I'm the one running, and I'm talking about dialogues, or I'm just laughing at jokes, or I have this thing. You can see from my face that I have this whole thing going on, and that's how I'm solving plots. So I dive so deep into my books that I just have to finish, because I want to know how it ends. Each of the Ninja Nani books, even I don't really know how it's going to go, where it's going to end. Characters just leap out, and they just decide for themselves sometimes. It just takes a life of its own, each book that I write. So yes, I can't leave a book halfway. I just have to obsessively push through till the end. And in this case especially, it's a book with comics. So I am just dying to draw the comics as well. So there's all these other layers of theme and story happening there. So yes, halfway doesn't work for me. I've not had a problem like getting stuck there so far.
Okay, like that was from the in the chat box, like, what if they just stop halfway, and what
okay,
can be done?
I think do something else that's interesting,
and then get back.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes just draw. I find if you really want to finish the story, but you really don't want to do anything else, I would say pick up a pencil and start doodling. Sometimes you might find that your answers are right there in your head, but they needed a pencil and some curvy lines rather than words to fix the problem. So
wonderful. That's a great idea. So yes, you have got your answer. Wonderful. Samina ma'am, there's this one question again which has popped up in the chat box. Children find vocabulary different and they leave reading. Any suggestions? Like, they don't want to refer to the dictionary, but they simply give up reading if they see the words are difficult.
So I think the thing is that the way we understand language, the way we build our vocabulary is also that when we are reading it in a story, we may not understand the exact meaning of that word, but if you're reading the full sentence, the full paragraph, you understand the gist of it, And I would sympathize actually with the child that if you have to sit with a book and a dictionary at the same time, I also wouldn't want to. Even now, if I'm reading something, I might encounter a word and I don't know the exact meaning. I don't want to stop reading to go and find out immediately. But I think that if you continue to read the sentence, you read the paragraph, you'll understand the gist of it, So that's one thing. Of course, there'll be some words which, you may not understand like that. Then I guess you do have to refer to the dictionary. But I feel that if children pick the books that they want to read themselves, then they'll want to, either they'll like just figure out what the word means, and that's how they are growing their vocabulary. Or maybe they have to just leave that book and find another one that works for them, you know. So, but I don't think that we should tell kids, oh, you have to sit with the dictionary and look at the book, look at the word immediately, etc. Vocabulary grows organically. It will not grow like this, you know. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, yes, it completely, ma'am, and absolutely. There's this one more question, Vanita, ma'am. The kids are asking, can you suggest detective series for children? Ma'am, you need to.
Yeah, there's a marvelous writer called Jonathan Stroud, and he's written a collection of detective stories called Lockwood and Company. It's set in England, and England has been overrun with ghosts. And Lockwood and Company is a detective story that hunts down ghosts. Oh, it is marvelous. So if you want a lovely detective story, come ghost story, then look up Lockwood and Company. There are 4 books and they're fantastic.
Ma'am, just repeat it once again. Just repeat it once again, ma'am.
Okay. So Lockwood and Company is by an author called Jonathan Stroud. It's set in England, and England has been overrun with ghosts. There are ghosts all in the streets of England. It's a big problem. And these are young detectives who hunt down ghosts. So it's a detective story, come a ghost story, and they are fabulous. 4 books. So please check out
yes,
Lockwood and Company by
interesting,
Jonathan
right?
Stroud.
You know, the way you explain, the way you talk about things, you know, it's like you are visualizing things. I mean, you are blessed with this talent. Thank you so much. Rajvi, what do you say? Can we take up one more question, or we need to, you know, it's like even 2 hours, 3 hours, or that day will be less enough to, you know, keep talking to you. And it's like every question that you answer, it's a learning for all of us.
Yes.
Can we have one more question? Can we just have one more question?
Yes.
If they, you know, why I want to put up this question is like in this time, you know, where gadgets are overpowering, will books maintain its charm, or what can we do as a community, or right now that we want to bring reading culture? So can you just conclude by, you know, talking, I mean, giving us suggestions on the whole, like how to go about it? Samina ma'am, let's hear it from you first.
No, I don't think reading will ever, we will read. That it is something that, you know, I think in human history, there has been a period where, you know, it is a kind of landmark kind of thing. So we are always going to read. We will read in different ways, but we will always read. And I think the place of the book will also remain, because the way we read the book, and that, you know, the connection that we make with the book in that individual way, there's a lot of pleasure in that. And I don't think human beings will be willing to give that up. What can we do? I think much of what we have been talking about here has been pushing this idea that let the kids choose. Don't try to do for them. Let them pick. Let them be the decision makers. Let them have a choice. All you can do is to give them choices and give them the freedom to explore on their own, and share with them that you get pleasure from that. But for that, you have to first experience that pleasure yourself, you know.
Absolutely. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's the most important thing, that let the kids explore on their own and find the things that they want to do.
Noted, ma'am, noted all of your suggestion, and it was mind-blowing, like, you know, talking to you all. Thank you so much. Rajvi, I would love Rajvi to, you know, take up and please deliver the word of thanks. Thank you all so much.
Yes, ma'am. And with that, I would love to thank Miss Lavanya, Miss Samina, and Miss Vanita for taking so much time out of your busy schedules and being with us here. Your little trinkets of information have been very useful. I would also like to thank the school management, Navneet ma'am and Hitiksha ma'am, for helping organize another successful event. And lastly, Kia ma'am for being her wonderful self and help keep the entire webinar lively. Now to the students and parents watching the live, Y'all can check out these wonderful authors' various social media accounts to know more about their published books and upcoming projects. I thank all of you once again for making this happen. To everyone watching, a writer only writes a book, a reader finishes it.
Yes. So we wish the children many happy hours of reading for pleasure. Thank you. And we would look forward to see you all once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.